的上的机器也是。
Hey, welcome back to the Glycogen Cycling channel. Windy day today out at the Chain of Lakes road race. So got a crosswind down this whole stretch. It's about 15 to 20 mile per hour crosswinds, but should be a good day. Beautiful weather. Just around like 65 degrees or so. Set. Got the bike ready. First race in the new team kit. So if you haven't been following me, joined a new team this year, Sarasota Cycling Club. So gonna be rocking with that. Have one other teammate here today. So that should be pretty fun.
Are you in this race or 3-4? Pro 1-2s. Pro 1-2-3s actually come out here. Watch out there. Ready for Pro 1-2-3 70-mile race. Good luck, riders. Have fun. See you in 70 miles. 13-mile laps today.
Hey, welcome back. So right off the bat, on this 70-mile road race, we have some attacks flying, and that was kind of the goal, was to try to get in a breakaway. I knew there was, there's some really strong guys here, so really one of my best chances is to get into breakaway and have that succeed and only have to fight against, 4 or 5 guys instead of 20. But as you'll see, the moves early on didn't really amount to much. It seemed like everyone was on top of the specific players in the race. So if there's about 5 or 6 really strong guys that are always in the top 5 or so, and if any of those guys were in the breakaway, pretty much just gonna get shut down right away. So let's talk a little bit about the wind, because that played a big factor in this race. Pretty much every direction felt like we had a crosswind. It was coming, if you're looking at the map right now, it was coming over, or the screen in the riders, it was coming over our left-hand side right now. This was probably the second windiest section. I'd say the first windy is the going into the straightaway. But that also could be because it was just a uphill finish, so it felt a lot more windy. But you could see at the back camera, we have a really good move going right now, and this is almost like a split in the field. But everyone just kind of sits up. We had 10 or 15 guys here, so I'm sure that would have gotten pulled back really quick because it would be really threatening. But all the big players were here. We had this Pioneer team, we had Amino Rip in this, and we also had Florida Velo. And those were kind of the 3 biggest teams in this race. Mainly Florida Velo. They had about 12 guys, I think I counted. So any move that gets off the front, they have to be in it. Otherwise, for sure, that's going to get pulled back. And as you'll see later on, they do get in the move and end up basically just riding the front the whole race and just trying to gutter everyone else. And since they have so many guys, they can really play the race in a number of ways. So I was really trying to stay towards the front, stay right on their wheels, because, with the wind how it is, if they decide they want to just blow up this race, they could really just gutter everyone right on the front at 400 or 500 watts and just, lose 6 guys, and they still have 6 left. So, and that would just destroy the field. They didn't do that, however, so, you know, we'll continue on. So you'll see here my teammate right here, Darren. Unfortunately, his Di2 charger didn't really work the night before. So as you'll see, his cadence is about 130 right now. He's just trying to position me because he knows this is going to be a short race for him, especially in this tailwind section coming up. So he's just trying to put me in a good position where I don't have to use too much watts to get up towards the front. And this was actually super helpful. You can see me right now only around 250 or so. So was able to chill as he pulled me up, and then as soon as we got past this corner, we have a tailwind, and he basically had to pull the plug there because there was no way he was going to be able to hang on in the little ring while we're going, as you'll see, 37. So this section of the course was, thanks Darren, this section of the course was the tailwind section, and nothing really got too much separation here. There wasn't a lot of tacks in this section. We were just, going fairly quickly. So as we skip forward here, this section was a tail crosswind. So this is actually, a tail crosswind is probably the most dangerous type of wind there can be, because the guys in the front get a slight advantage where they can go a lot faster and the draft doesn't matter as much, but they still can gutter everyone and cause, splits in the field, like kind of happened right there. And because that happened, I knew, okay, this is actually crucial that I stay towards the front, because as you'll see, we're all in a straight line going pretty hard on the front. So I know once we turn that right hand turn, it's going to be an uphill crosswind, and since there's no breakaway established at this point, this could be the time where Florida Velo just gutters everyone and blows up the field, because they have the numbers to do that. So basically this whole next section I went a little bit harder than you would think is necessary, but it really put me in a good position. So I'm going to use my energy now to conserve a lot in the near future. So really, when you're doing a road race, especially the longer ones, it's all about conserving. Early on, you don't want to do a ton of efforts because you're going to pay for that later. And by me conserving as much as I can by following this guy up, eventually he wasn't going fast enough, so I went around him. But I wanted to conserve as much as possible because you're gonna need that later on in the race, and you're gonna feel it if you do a lot of efforts early on. So that was my goal, was to move up in this section, and luckily I was able to make up a lot of places. I started back at basically a mile or two ago at the rear of the field, and by this upcoming corner in a really good position that I feel happy with. As we'll see here, I make up a few more spots going through this turn, and I'm feeling really good. Whenever I see the black and yellow kits, I know, especially since there's not a lot up here, I know I'm in an okay position. They're not gonna, doesn't look like they're gonna blow up the field right now, because otherwise you'd see all of them up here. But they did all start to move up towards the front, so I knew something might be going down. So at this section, there's a gap that starts to form off the front. There's a couple guys making a move, and they get separation. And one thing that's tricky about road races is there's a yellow line rule. So if you go over that yellow line, you can get relegated to the back of the field. And if you do it, numerous times, you can actually get disqualified. So it makes it tricky to try to move up, but sometimes you can, push it a little bit, especially if no one's watching, which is kind of what I did there. But, that was a important move to make because this group off the front was actually looking a little threatening, and we were able to actually pull them back pretty easily. I also at this point was like kind of looking back saying, hey, I'm not doing all this work here, like you guys can help me out. I'm not giving everyone a free ride. But no one was pulling through. I think they knew this move was not going to work out. Actually, now that I look at it, one of the guy's teammates was up here, so obviously he's not going to help me. And here we go. We got another move going. Again, I was just trying to get in a breakaway early on. And I was following the top guys from each team. So we have, a top guy from Amino Rip. We have a top guy from Florida Velo. Top guy from this Pioneer team and the blue kid in front of me. I was just trying to follow those guys. And I knew if they were in a move, it would probably, their teams would just not work. And I didn't want to be in another road race where it's just a bunch of guys that just noodle the whole day. So was being kind of aggressive in the beginning of this race to try to get in a breakaway because I knew that was probably my best shot at a good result. So here we go. We're skipping forward now to the last lap of the race, and shortly on the second lap, a group of 4 got off the front, and as you'll see, we have all the Florida Velo kits on the front here, just rotating pace line. And this was kind of my my strategy throughout the race was just kind of sit right behind them, because I knew where I was going to get the best draft. If I sat right behind them in the crosswinds, I knew I wasn't going to get guttered as much. And right now the wind is coming over from the front right. So I'm really getting the best draft possible right here. And hugging that yellow line so no one can come around me really and push me, further into the right side. But as soon as we make this right turn here, I want to be on the right side of the road. So it's kind of, you got to watch where the wind is coming from, know what turns are coming up, and kind of position yourself to be able to conserve as much as possible throughout the race. And I kind of just wanted to show you guys, when there is a giant team like this and you are by yourself or only have like 1 or 2 guys on your team, or 2 or 3, you don't have to do any work. If they are the dominant team, they are the ones in charge. They have to be. So even if they tell you to do a lot of work, you don't really have to. That's not how it works. All right, so this is a crucial point of the race. This is, again, the last lap. And if you look up ahead, there is a guy, you can barely see him, but there's a guy that got dropped from the breakaway. And this could mean a couple things. It can mean, well, before we get to that, as soon as Amina Rip saw that, they're like, okay, we need to go now. So they just went full send, they knew tailwind sections coming up, so they needed to get a gap before then and then try to just go full gas to try to catch the 3 guys off the front. Okay, so why did they do that? Because that guy got dropped, we can infer a couple things. So either A, they're tired and they just, one of the guys just gave up. It's a possibility. So what that means is, they're running out of steam. We need to close this down now because they're tired and they're probably not going as fast as we can go. B, they are starting to attack each other, and what that means is they are not being as organized as they probably should be with, about 6 or 7 miles to go in the race. So that also means they're going to, one guy's going to attack and then another guy's not going to pull through, and that whole thing is just going to slow them down. So that's another reason why they just had to go full send and try to catch those 3 guys that are left. So you'll see there, I was pulling a little bit, but again, Florida Velo is right behind me, so I'm gonna flick my elbow. I'm not gonna do all the work for them because they have the majority of the guys. So if they want to be up with the main players on a Mino rip, then they gotta do the work to pull it back. And I'm gonna conserve a little bit. You can see my heart rate here is 163, so just barely below threshold, maybe right at threshold. So I'm not going super full gas, and that was kind of the plan. I didn't want to blow myself up because I know there's going to be a lot of hard efforts coming in the near future. You'll see here we're a steady 35 right now in this tailwind section. Super fun, full gas, biggest gear really. Maybe the 12th tooth. And again, this guy right in front of me, Michael Hernandez, he is the U23 crit champion for 2019. So he was, kind of the big player I was watching for on Florida Velo. I knew coming in tomorrow is the really technical crit. So I knew their plan was most likely to protect him. And I think that was their whole game plan going early on, was send one of their guys up the road. If the breakaway wins, okay, but at least try to keep them close. And since they had so many guys, they could keep that breakaway within a minute or two. And that way Michael can just sit in and chill for the whole road race, not do any work at all. And he'll have plenty of legs left to crush the time trial. So even if the breakaway wins, he can pull all that time back in the time trial, and then the crit, basically, he just got to do what he does, and he definitely did that. So yeah, he won the overall, and I think they played it basically perfectly, which, I mean, when you have 12 guys, you better play it perfectly. But it was actually a good plan. I would, going into it, I was like, for sure he's going to be in the breakaway, which was I was following all his moves. But as I thought about it throughout the race, I was like, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense to have him just basically sit in the road race and, crush the time trial and the crit. It makes a lot of sense. So definitely learned a little bit in that scenario. But you'll see here that little move that got off the front on, that turn into the tailwind section is just about pulled back here and, basically reset. The break of 3 guys is still off the front, so we can't really sit up too much. And again, there's still a Florida Velo guy off the front, so they're not going to do too much work, but they want to be up towards the front in case that does get pulled back. They're right there, able to counterattack if necessary. So again, the main players to watch at this point are Amino Rip, because they have 4 guys, but they do not have anybody in the breakaway. And this corner was actually really sketchy. We're coming through it real hot, and it's an easy turn to overcook a little bit and go into the opposite lane, and you'll see there's cars coming on there. Ooh. Yeah, that spiked the heart rate. And I don't know what happened to my heart rate monitor at this point, but it kind of went MIA. So coming up was probably the biggest mistake I made in this race. I thought I was riding super well throughout this whole race. I was being very attentive, watching who's going, watching who's off the front. If there's, you know, big players, you need to be able to be up there with them. But this move was... I'm still kicking myself for it, honestly, because it was just... yeah, not good. So that motorbike just came up there and was basically telling us the time gap. So he said there was like 40 seconds, but at this point we can see them, and there's no way it's 40 seconds. So we had an attack go right now from actually Florida Velo, which was quite interesting. I think they knew it was going to get pulled back. But this is where I messed up. I should have gone with that guy. I was right there and easily could have followed him. I was watching Hernandez, like I was saying earlier, and me and him both made eye contact, looking like who's going to go, who's going to do it. And I think if I went, he was going to hop on my wheel, and then I would have been basically responsible for pulling him way up to those guys. So it's kind of a hard decision to make at that point. Like, if I go, I'm going to be toast trying to get up to that move. And if I make it up there, he's going to be on my wheel and he's going to be fresh, and then he's just going to drop the hammer on me. So I should have gone when that last guy went and just not hesitated at all, but I just hesitated for a second, and that was, you know, that cost me. And that group actually was able to bridge up to those 3 guys in front. So that was still kicking myself for that move, because that would have been a almost guaranteed top 10. So is what it is, though. That's just a learning experience. You can't hesitate at the end of the race there. If there's a threatening move, you gotta just go with it. And you know, especially at the end of the race. At the beginning of the race, you can kind of pick and choose a little bit better who's the move you're gonna go with and who's in it. But at the end of the race, you kind of just have to go with everything, because if the guys get off the front, it's basically game over. You know, that's the race right there. So again, in this section, just to reiterate, we have a cross tailwind, and it's coming from the right-hand side. So you really want to hold, you want to be as far left as possible to get the draft from the guy in front of you. And that's one thing beginner cyclists need to just be aware about. Like, it's the best draft isn't always on the, you know, right behind the guy. Sometimes you have to sit off to the left or to the right. So here we are again, just following basically every move I can. You know, I'm a one-man show since teammate, you know, had some mechanical issues, but this is another mistake I made. I was you know, the whole race I was sitting on Michael Hernandez's wheel, or trying to be close to him, and I kind of mixed him up with the guy right to in front of me, and next thing I know, he's blasting from behind, so I'm like, ah, shoot. As soon as that happened, I was like, dang. And I don't know if he actually made it up to the group, but he was really close. And at this section, I'm just trying to rally these guys together. I'm like, we can't just let him ride away. But, you know, no one really wanted to work super well. And that's another thing. When you are in a group, you want to be able to, and you want to be able to work with the guys, and the wind is coming from your right. Hold that right side so they get the best draft, and then they can recover, and then they can come around you, and then you can draft them. And it just makes everything, you know, a lot easier. Everyone to work together. But, you know, at the end of the race, no one really wants to work. So here we go. This is the finish. And this was probably top 5 worst wind into the finish I felt. Doesn't help that it's an uphill, but it was like you basically had to start your sprint with like 100 meters to go, because it was, you know, maybe even less, because it was super, super windy, uphill finish. You know, everything's basically against you. So here we go, just letting this play out. Again, this group in front of us is only maybe 5 to 10 seconds, but because the wind is so strong, like if you try to bridge up to that, you can just totally blow up. And judging by that guy that just went, it looks like he might have been able to make it up there. But here we go with 1K to go. Again, there's a Amino Rip guy up towards the front. There's a Florida Velo guy up there. I'm not sure if there's a Pioneer guy, but you know, basically all these guys have teammates up, so they're not going to go full gas to try to pull them back. And again, wind is, you know, basically straight headwind and towards from the right. It's like a head crosswind, but kind of mostly headwind. So holding the left side of the road is your best draft you can get. So that's another thing to pay attention to when you're coming into a finish. Hold the line that's going to give you the, you know, where you're going to have to push the least amount of watts. So at that point, that was kind of an illegal move to going onto the wrong side of the road. But, you know, since it's close to the finish, they pretty much have it closed off. It should be in the last 300 meters where that cone was, but, you know, is what it is. So here we go. I'm trying to hold the, you know, as far left as possible, because that's where the best draft is, but you know, couldn't really get the legs going. So that's the Chain of Lakes road race. I believe I finished 16th, so not the best, not the worst, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you leave it a like, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.